Welcome back. 20 minutes past the hour. Thom Hartman here with you. The place where we dare to ask, is Walmart a person? And we dare to say, no, not a chance. Got to change that stuff. So anyway, I was going through my stack of various rants that I wanted to share with you. And one in particular, Ron Forhofer, was writing over a dissident voice. And talking about, he was actually quoting in an October 2015 article, Joseph Stiglitz, who won a Nobel Prize for being a brilliant economist, and Adam Hirsch wrote something that really hit me, because my father was killed by the asbestos industry. He died of mesothelioma, and he was exposed to asbestos in 1951 when they knew that it caused mesothelioma, but they didn't tell the workers. In fact, they didn't tell the companies that were buying their asbestos. So it was a secret that the asbestos industry knew. They'd known it since the mid-30s. So here, let me just share this with you. Imagine what would have happened if these provisions had been in place. Now, what the provisions that they're talking about are what are called investor-state dispute settlements, or settlement disputes, the ISDS. It's a provision that you find in the TPP, the TTIP, in NAFTA, in the GATT that made the WTO, in the Korean Free Trade Agreement. You find it in all these agreements, where basically if a country passes a regulation that causes a corporation to have to do business in a different way that causes them to lose money, they can sue the government. I'm frankly waiting for, the Malaysian government or the Korean government or some government to sue us over our minimum wage laws. But in any case, just listen to this. Imagine what would have happened if these provisions were in place when the lethal effects of asbestos were discovered. Rather than shutting down manufacturers and forcing them to compensate those who had been harmed, under ISDS, governments would have had to pay the manufacturers not to kill their citizens. Taxpayers would have been hit twice, first to pay for the health damage caused by the asbestos, and then to compensate manufacturers for their lost profits when the government stepped in to regulate a dangerous product. This is how insane these trade policies are, these trade deals. And, to add further to that, this from Lori Wallach's, Global Trade Watch, part of Public Citizen, citizen.org, the group that Ralph Nader started back, 40, 50 years ago. And this is from a press release they sent out over the name of Nicholas Florko on May 4th. As the Obama administration intensifies its efforts to persuade Congress to pass the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, new U.S. government data released today reveal an inconvenient truth. This is May 4th, which was yesterday, which reveal an inconvenient truth about the Korea Free Trade Agreement, the FTA, that served as the template for the TPP. The new data covering the first 4 years of that pact, this is the free trade deal with Korea that we signed back 6, 7 years ago. The new data covering the first 4 years of the pact reveal that the U.S. goods trade deficit with Korea has more than doubled. Now, our trade deficit with Korea was supposed to go down as a result of signing a free trade agreement with them, but just like with every other single free trade agreement we've ever signed, our trade deficit went up. The increase in the U.S. trade deficit with Korea equals to the loss of more than 106,000 American jobs in the first 4 years of the Korea FTA. Census Bureau data show the outcomes of the Korea Pact are the opposite of the Obama administration's 2011 more exports, more jobs promises for the deal. The administration is now employing similar claims to try to sell the TPP to Congress and the American public. And the thing that really shocked me was just the opening sentence. As the Obama administration intensifies its efforts to persuade Congress to pass the TPP, ellipsis. They're still pushing this thing? My prediction, after the election, and either before Thanksgiving or before Christmas, when nobody's paying attention and everybody's traveling and everybody's shopping and whatever, on the last minute of some congressional session at 15 minutes after midnight, they're going to pass the TPP. And most people aren't even going to know about it. And we're going to lose another 10, 20, 30,000 factories. And we're going to see a larger trade deficit. And our wages are going to go down even further. And more people are going to be thrown out of work. And more of the transnational corporations are going to make more money, and the CEOs are going to make a fortune. And the billionaire class, at least that part of it that is tied to international trade, is going to be doing very well, thank you very much. And the working class Americans in the United States, screwed again. Hey, this is how it works. This is why Donald Trump is actually gaining traction, because he's saying these trade deals, and this is the one thing that he's been consistently saying for like 15, 20 years. These trade deals are nuts. They're screwing the American worker. Another thing that scares the hell out of me about Donald Trump running as the Republican to the left of Hillary Clinton.
The Panama Free Trade Agreement. Now, Panama is a very small country. Its entire annual economic output is only $26.7 billion a year, or about 0.2% of the American economy. So I think no one is going to legitimately stand up here and say that trading with such a small country is going to significantly increase American jobs. Then why would we? Why would we be considering a trade agreement with Panama? What's going on there? Well, it turns out, Mr. President, that Panama is a world leader when it comes to allowing wealthy Americans and large corporations to evade U.S. taxes by stashing their cash in offshore tax havens. And the Panama Free Trade Agreement would make this bad situation much worse. As I'm a member of the Budget Committee, as you are, Mr. President, and we have heard testimony time and time again that our country is losing up to $100 billion every year as corporations stash their money in postal addresses in the Cayman Islands, Bermuda, and in Panama. And this trade agreement makes that situation even worse. According to Citizens for Tax Justice, quote, a tax haven has one of three characteristics. It has no income tax or a very low-rate income tax. It has bank secrecy laws, and it has a history of non-cooperation with other countries on exchanging information about tax matters. Panama has all three of those, and they are probably the worst, end of quote, according to Citizens for Tax Justice. The trade agreement with Panama would effectively bar the United States from cracking down on illegal and abusive offshore tax havens in Panama. In fact, combating tax haven abuse in Panama would be a violation of this free trade agreement, exposing the U.S. to fines from international authorities. Well, at a time when we have a $14 trillion plus national debt, and at a time when we are frantically figuring out ways to try to lower our deficit, some of us believe that it is a good idea to do away with all of these tax havens by which the wealthy and large corporations stash their money abroad and avoid paying U.S. taxes. The Panama Trade Agreement would make that goal even more difficult.
The TPP has got to go!
Political pushback tonight. Bernie Sanders supporters upset with CNN made their voices heard in Hollywood. The hashtag OccupyCNN is popping up now on social media. Nearly 1,000 people joined the protest on Sunset Boulevard near Cahuenga outside the CNN building. The group is accusing CNN and other media outlets of unequal television coverage of both Republican and Democratic presidential candidates. But in particular, they feel Sanders isn't getting a fair shake.
It's just a kind of a wake-up call to CNN and the other media sources that are blacking out Bernie Sanders and not providing fair and equal coverage of the candidates.
The protest was peaceful. No arrests were made. Sanders supporters say they plan to hold more of these events in the coming weeks.